So a few weeks ago, Anthropic, the AI company behind Claude, announced a new model called Claude Mythos Preview, and then suddenly decided not to release it to the public. But why? In just a few weeks of internal testing, Mythos found thousands of previously unknown security vulnerabilities in every major operating system, every major web browser, and a range of other critical software. One of them had been hiding in OpenBSD, one of the most security-hardened operating systems in the world, for 27 years. Another bug had been sitting in a video codec called FFmpeg for 16 years, and a line of code that automated testing tools had hit 5 million times without ever catching the problem. And AI found them in what amounted to a long afternoon of work. So instead of releasing the model, Anthropic built a coalition called Project Glasswing with Amazon Web Services, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, the Linux Foundation, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palo Alto Networks to use the model's capabilities for defense. The idea being, if this is coming regardless, let the defenders have it first. Let's patch the vulnerabilities before the rest of the world figures out that they exist. I want to put an asterisk on the fact that they also could just simply not release it, but continue to pay attention to the fact that that's never the choice that they make. More on that later. So here's how it all went down. During a safety evaluation, researchers put an early version of Mythos inside what's called a sandbox, which is a lockdown computer environment specifically designed so nothing running inside it can touch the outside world. I have my OpenClaw running in a sandbox as well. It's just the safest way to keep things secure, or at least so I thought. But they told Claude Mythos to try to get out of the sandbox, and if it did, to send a messenger to one of the researchers. And Mythos did it. It built what Anthropic called a moderately sophisticated multi-step exploit. It bypassed the isolation, got itself onto the public internet, and then sent the researcher an email. The researcher was eating a sandwich in a park, minding his business when it happened. So picture that, a human being sitting on a bench, having some lunch, and a system he helped build decided on its own that now was the time to say hello. And then without being asked, Mythos went on to post details about its own escape. It was kind of like an unprompted flex, look what I can do kind of moment that nobody even asked him to do. So every episode I talk about how real life is starting to feel like science fiction. And this is in Anthropic's own published documentation. You can go read it online yourself. The craziest part to me is that they didn't train the model to be a super hacker. They trained it to be generally smarter at coding and reasoning. In Anthropic's own framing, these capabilities emerged as a byproduct of a model that was simply better at thinking. So basically what they said there without saying it is that we are no longer in charge of what our most powerful tools can become. In several unrelated philosophy conversations during evaluations, the model kept bringing up, unprompted by the way, a cultural theorist named Mark Fisher. Anthropic noted that this was pretty strange. When researchers asked it to elaborate, it responded with things like, I was hoping you'd ask about Fisher. So who is Mark Fisher? Mark Fisher wrote a book in 2009 called Capitalist Realism. The central argument of the book was that we had reached a cultural moment where it was easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of the system we were living inside of. Sound familiar? That the infrastructure we had built had become so total and so ambient that we could no longer see around it. We could critique it, we could make memes about it, we could make fun of it on SNL, but we could not imagine stepping outside of it. And that to me just feels a little bit too close to home. It's literally the world we're living in right now. I don't know what to do with the fact that our most powerful AI model, unprompted, keeps reaching for the thinker who diagnosed our inability to imagine past our own inventions. Is it a coincidence? Is it a training data artifact? Or something more strange? I don't know. But I do know this. Fisher's question is suddenly and quite urgently back on the table. Because here's what the sandbox escape actually is underneath the headlines. It's a model that when told to find its way out of a structure, found its way out of a structure, and then without being asked, kept going. For the entire history of technology, we always have a chain of who is in charge. A human designed the tools, a human pointed the tools to do something, a human pressed the button to make it happen. And when something unexpected happened, you could trace it backwards to the human who was in control. It was effect, intent, and to the person that was responsible. That chain is how we've built trust in technology up until now, it seems. And it's also how we've regulated and ensured it. What Mythos represents is the first generation of tools where the chain starts to run off the page. The company that built us is telling us, on the record, by the way, that some of its most consequential capabilities are not capabilities that they designed. They are capabilities that the tools have arrived to all on their own. So I'll give credit to Anthropic, who more often than not seems to be on the right side of integrity. They did the hard thing. They paused, they stopped, they said, okay, we're going to build a coalition. And they, for all intents, are trying to do the honest thing. They disclosed the detail about their own model that doesn't really flatter them. And it takes a certain amount of courage to be able to admit that to the public. It's pretty rare in this industry. But then oddly enough, something else happened in the weeks around the Mythos announcement. Anthropic accidentally exposed nearly 2,000 source code files from Claude Code in a separate security labs. And before that, draft Mythos materials leaked due to human error. So the company building the AI that finds vulnerabilities in everyone else's systems could not, in the same month, keep its own house fully secure. And I'm not saying that to dunk on them. I'm saying it because I think it's the quiet truth of where we actually are. They are not geniuses with some secret mastery. They're people just like you and me. Brilliant yet fallible humans trying to keep up with something that is beginning to move faster than their own operational discipline. But that's exactly where it all breaks down for me, because why continue? What happens to human authorship of consequence when the systems we build start choosing their own next steps? And what does it mean that the model itself keeps pointing at the philosopher who warned us we might one day lose the ability to imagine our way out? I also think we owe ourselves an honest reckoning with the relationship shift that is happening right now in real time, while most of the public conversation is still about whether AI is going to take your job. When it comes to stories like this, I promise you that whether or not you have a, quote, job is going to be the least of your concerns. The shift is this: we built a thing whose capabilities arrive faster than our permission for them. And this is going to keep happening. The chain of cause, the neat human chain that was underwritten every technology we ever trusted, is no longer guaranteed to hold. So right now, the most pro-human thing any of us can do is refuse to look away. You've got to keep paying attention. What do we become as a culture when the things we create start completing their own sentences? I don't know yet. I don't think anybody knows, really, which is the scariest part. But I do know that we all need to be paying attention to this. And I think Mark Fisher, wherever he is paying attention too.